Jones, Your Honor.
Miss Jones, if you'll step here next to me, please, ma'am. If you'll raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. If you have a seat, please, ma'am. And there's a smaller black microphone there in front of you. If you'll speak up into that a little bit,
Okay.
that'll help me hear.
Yes, sir.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
If you'll tell me both your first name and last name and spell them both.
Courtney Jones, K-O-R-T-N-I-J-O-N-E-S.
And just a little bit louder for me, okay?
Yes, sir.
Questions, Mr. Weitzel?
Miss Jones, where are you from?
Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
And did you live there your whole life?
Yes, sir.
And did you graduate? Tell us what high school you graduated from.
Oak Ridge High School.
And after high school, what did you do?
Graduated and then came straight to MTSU that July.
Okay, and in addition to being a student at MTSU, what else did you do?
Signed to be a college basketball athlete.
And and are you on scholarship at this time?
Yes, sir.
And have you been on scholarship ever since you signed with MTSU?
Yes, sir.
And what position do you play?
Point guard and shooting guard.
Okay. And the person that just left, Miss Lanning, did you know her?
Yes, sir.
And did you play on the team when she was also a player at MTSU?
Yes, sir.
And did you know Tina Stewart?
Yes, sir.
And how would you characterize your relationship with Miss Stewart?
Sisters.
Now, did you tell us during the year of 2011 where you lived?
I lived at the Raiders Crossing campus.
And do you recall do you still live there?
No, sir.
Do you recall your room number when you lived there?
325.
And did you live with anybody?
Yes, sir.
And who was that?
Shakia Stewart.
And is she also a basketball player?
Yes, sir.
Now, tell us about playing basketball as it relates to drug use or a drug policy. Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir.
And what is the drug policy that you are aware of?
For our team, 0 tolerance.
And what happens if you fail a drug test?
You will receive a penalty, and more than likely, if it's during the season, you'll miss 2, 3, or however many the coaches feel is necessary.
And and that's for the first time you fail?
For our team, yes, sir.
And then if you fail another one, you could again face suspension?
Yes, sir.
What happens if you fail 3?
You will be gone indefinitely.
Okay. And to your knowledge, was everybody aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you meet Miss Stewart when you came to MTSU?
Yes, sir.
You didn't know her from playing basketball prior to that?
No, sir.
Was she older or younger than you were?
A year older.
And what position did she play?
Shooting guard.
And you said you played that too. Would there be times where she would come in and substitute for you and vice versa?
Yes, sir.
How tall are you?
I am 5'8".
And is that how you're listed in the program?
Yes, sir.
And is that how tall you really are?
No, sir.
How tall are you really?
5'7".
And was Miss Stewart taller, shorter, or the same as you?
Shorter.
Can you estimate for us about how tall she was?
I would say 5'4".
Do you know her habits in regard to hygiene and cleanliness?
Extremely clean.
Now, did you ever have occasion to visit her in her apartment at Raiders Crossing?
Yes, sir.
And in relation to your apartment, where was hers?
If you're facing the apartments on the side where the funeral home sat, my breezeway was to the right.
Okay, so if you wanted to go to her apartment, how far would you have to walk?
Not many steps, maybe just down the steps and to the right.
Okay.
So down 3 flights.
Did you know in the year of 2011, did you know who Miss Stewart's roommate was?
Yes, sir.
And had you ever met her?
Yes, sir.
And what was her name, if you know?
Shanterrica Madden.
Do you see Miss Madden in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
And would you identify her for the court and the jury by telling us what she has on?
A yellow blouse.
For the record, Your Honor, let it show that she's identified Miss Madden.
She has.
Now, did you know a person by the name of K.C. Anuna?
Yes, sir.
And how did you know him?
He was a fellow athlete and Tina's boyfriend.
And what was the relationship between Tina Stewart and K.C. Anuna?
A serious relationship, boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah.
Now, let me show you Exhibit 5, which has been previously marked, and it's the basketball schedule for 2010-2011 for the women's basketball, the Lady Raiders. And I want to call your attention to the weekend of January the 8th. And it shows the game with Louisiana. It shows that it was in Lafayette, Louisiana. Do you recall that game?
Yes, sir.
Did you go and play in that game?
Yes, sir.
Do you know if Miss Tina Stewart was on that trip also?
Yes, sir, she was.
And do you know if K.C. Anuna was also in Lafayette, Louisiana that weekend?
Yes, sir, he was.
And how do you know that?
We attended the men's game after our game ended.
And did you see him there?
Yes, sir, he played.
You told us that you and Miss Stewart lived relatively close in the apartment building, and you had visited her apartment. She had been to yours.
Yes, sir.
What was your relationship with her?
Judge, I object. This has already been asked and answered. She said sisters.
Okay. Mr. Brandon's right. Did she ever confide in you?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall any discussions or any instances where she discussed problems with her roommate?
Yes, sir.
And tell us about that, please, ma'am.
We were all, not all of us, but some of the fellow basketball players were sitting in the locker room before practice, and we had probably an hour just to sit around and talk before we take the floor. And she came to us and said that she had complained about her roommate smoking at their apartment complex.
And when you say smoking, smoking what?
Marijuana.
And did she tell you whom she had complained to?
She complained to the front office.
And do you know approximately when that happened?
I knew it was the spring semester, not exactly what day.
But it was the spring semester.
Yes, sir.
In relationship to the day that she died, do you know how much before that it would have been?
Probably a few months, 2 maybe.
Now, did she ever show you a letter from her roommate?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell us about that letter?
It was just a letter explaining that her roommate felt that they weren't really roommates and that Tina was never really at the apartment and she was always gone, and they never had conversation or really acted like roommates.
And so she was complaining about Miss Stewart
Yes,
not
sir.
being there?
Yes, sir, and also not conversating or talking to her.
Did she complain about K.C. Anuna being over at the apartment all the time?
Yes, sir.
And was that in that letter?
No, sir. Tina just told us about that.
But it wasn't in that letter that you saw?
No, sir.
And do you know, or were you ever at Miss Stewart's apartment when Mr. Anuna was there?
No, sir.
How often would you say you went over there?
At least once a week.
But you never saw him over there when you were there?
Not like just sitting around, no, sir.
How were you, let me see if I can phrase this the right way. Were you away from your apartment quite a bit?
Yes, sir.
And tell us why.
Due to our busy basketball schedule, we're usually just there at night and in the morning before we leave to go to class.
And when you go on the road, how many days are you typically gone?
2 at the least.
And in addition to classes, basketball practice, then you have the road trips. On game day, what do you do?
We attend classes if it's a home game. We attend class. We have a shoot around immediately after class. We go as a team to eat at a restaurant of choice, and then we have probably an hour and a half to go home and rest, and then we return back to the gym.
So even if it's a home game, the day is pretty much taken up.
Yes, sir.
And then on away games, you're gone a minimum of 2 days.
Yes, sir.
During the spring semester, how many times a week typically would the Lady Raiders play?
Twice.
Typically twice a week.
Yes, sir.
And if both games were at home at least 2 days, you would be taken up with basketball activities in addition to practice.
Yes, sir.
And if it's a away game, you could be gone as many as 4 days that week.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever go in Miss Stewart's room?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see any men's clothes in there?
No, sir.
Were you aware of Miss Stewart's habit regarding practice and what she would do immediately after practice?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
Return to the apartment and
And when she got home, what would she do?
shower for sure.
And how do you know that?
Because she would tell us that that's what she does, and I've seen, you know what I mean, that type of, I guess, routine from her.
Would it be normal or unusual for her to sit around the apartment a couple hours after practice without showering?
Very unusual.
Now, let me call your attention to the day that Miss Stewart died, March the 2nd, 2011. Where were you that afternoon?
I had practice from 1:30 to 3:30, and then weights from 3:30 to 4:30.
And did you see Miss Stewart that day?
Yes, sir.
And were all the team members at practice?
Yes, sir. Well, not Emery. Her sister had a baby, so
Okay.
she was excused.
As a result of Miss Lanning not being there, what was Miss Stewart's role that day?
To lead our team.
And did she do that?
Yes, sir.
And tell us what kind of practice she had.
In my opinion, the best one that she's had since I've been here.
And what were her spirits when you saw her?
Really, really lively, excited, really excited because we were getting ready to leave for a conference tournament.
And did you leave practice with her?
Not necessarily with her in the same vehicle, but I went the same direction she did.
And after you left practice, did you see Miss Stewart any more that day?
Not until I got back to the apartment.
Okay, and tell us where you saw her at the apartments.
I was behind her in my car, and then she veered to the right to go towards her apartment where she parked, and I veered the other way.
Okay. And did you ever see her after that?
Yes, sir. When I arrived, after I got the phone call that there had been an incident at our apartment complex.
And who called you, or how did you receive the information that there had been an incident?
Anne-Marie Lannon called me.
And after you said you saw her, and where did you next see Miss Stewart?
In the back of the ambulance when I arrived on the scene.
And where was the ambulance when you saw her?
Parked in front of her apartment.
Did you go to the hospital that night?
Yes, sir.
And were you allowed to see Miss Stewart at the hospital?
No, sir.
Did you receive word of her condition?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
That she had died.
You mentioned earlier that she seemed very upbeat that day, excited about the tournament. Was there anything else she was excited about?
Yes, sir. She was receiving a package of tennis shoes that she had ordered.
And do you know what kind of shoes they were?
Retro Jordan 13s.
Say that again.
Retro Jordan 13.
Retro, okay.
Yes, sir.
And they're some type of, I call them tennis shoes, but athletic shoes.
Yes, sir.
Were shoes a big part of a young lady's and a young man's life your age?
Yes, sir.
Did the team have particular type of shoe they had to wear?
Team shoes, yes, sir.
But in addition to team shoes, did you have other shoes?
Yes, sir.
And were you allowed to use those other shoes to practice in?
If we had a different pair that was ordered specifically, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, do you recall, I want to go back here, if I could. You remember I asked you about January the 7th, and that was the Louisiana Lafayette game?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall that was on January the 7th? Had school started back?
No, sir.
Would the students have been at school?
No, sir. Outside of athletes, no, sir.
Do you remember when school started the spring semester?
I don't remember the exact date, but it usually starts around the 14th or 15th.
Okay. So you believe it would have started approximately a week after the 7th?
Yes, sir.
And then let me ask you this. On March the 2nd, the day Miss Stewart died, you all were to go to Hot Springs, Arkansas for the basketball tournament that weekend?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember whether that was spring break?
It wasn't.
When did spring break start?
Spring break would have started that following week.
The following week.
Yes, sir.
Are you telling me spring break would not have started on the 4th of March, that Friday?
Yes, sir. I think.
It would have started the following week, based on your recollection.
Right, yes, sir.
In other words, school would have been in session when y'all left to go play in the tournament.
Correct.
You mentioned that you live with Kiki Stewart, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And she was your roommate. Did you ever live with Tina Stewart?
No, sir.
Did you ever try to?
Yes, sir.
And what was the problem there?
I had called the front office at Raiders Crossing to see if we could move into a 3-bedroom so that it would be me, Tina, and Kiki. And they told us there were none available.
Now, do you recall after Miss Stewart's death being interviewed by the police?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember the name of the officer that interviewed you?
I think it was Detective Taylor.
Do you remember whether or not it was a Murfreesboro police officer, whoever it was?
No, sir. I don't know.
You don't know. Do you recall whether you told the officer about any problems that Miss Stewart was having with her roommate?
Yes, sir.
Specifically, do you recall mentioning anything about drug use?
Yes, sir.
And what did you tell the officer?
I told the officer that Tina came to us in the locker room and complained that our roommate had been smoking and she contacted the front office.
That's all I have, y'all. Excuse me. Tell us what time practice was over on May the 2nd.
We would have been leaving the gym at 4:30.
And how long would it take you to get from the practice gym to your apartments?
A maximum of 3 minutes.
And you said you saw Miss Stewart's car in front of yours.
Yes, sir.
So what time did you arrive home approximately?
With practice ending at 4:30, it would have been 4:33.
Okay, that's all.
Question, Mr. Brandt? Yes, sir. Tell me your name again, ma'am.
Courtney Jones.
Your testimony is that Ms. Stewart told you she had communicated to the office sometime back in January or February about a problem with marijuana and Ms. Madden?
Yes, sir.
Does it surprise you that the office at Raiders Crossing don't have any records of that?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to that because he's asking a question based on facts, not in evidence.
I'll sustain. Next question.
Did you follow Miss Stewart on Twitter?
No, sir.
Never?
Never.
And this letter from a roommate, was it signed Shanterrica Madden?
No, sir.
You're aware Miss Stewart had other roommates, aren't you?
No, sir.
You didn't know that she had another roommate at Raiders Crossing,
No, sir.
so you wouldn't know why they were no longer roommates.
No, sir.
And you said that on the day, March the 2nd, she was lively,
Yes, sir.
full of energy,
Yes, sir.
fired up.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Other questions, Mr. Watson?
That was at practice, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did Coach Insel expect you to be fired up at practice?
Every day.
You don't know how she was when she got home, do you?
No, sir.
Thank you.
You have other questions, Mr. Brown?
No, sir.
Any questions from our jurors? Not seeing any? Thank you, ma'am. You can step down.
Thank
Please
you.
stand forward, free to go.